until we get students in. We're on that thing.
Are you good?
Yep.
You have good editing skills, make me look good?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Excellent.
Okay, we'll go ahead and get started with Coach Weinke. Questions, Kelly?
Obviously, you have Haynes and Zach back.
Yeah.
And then having the two young guys in for
Yeah.
for spring, how much has that accelerated what you guys have been able to do through the first week of camp?
Yeah, well, I think first and foremost, the luxury of having some veteran quarterbacks, right? Guys that have been in our system, makes life a little bit easier in terms of what we can do offensively. And I think the fortunate part for me is the two young guys have fallen right in behind those guys. They're wired the right way. Haynes and Zach obviously set the expectation in the room, and the two young guys are following them. And so when you have two veteran guys that go about their business the right way, it's easy for those younger guys to see what they do. But I think most importantly, you're limited, I think, in the first year, new staff, new offense, in terms of what you can do. And when you look at across the board offensively, starting with our quarterback, it allows you to be creative. It allows you to be exotic. It allows you to attack people in a lot of different ways, because the foundation of the offense is now understood by everybody. And the trigger man is obviously running the show.
Coach Faulkner talked about having to find that third quarterback before the opening game.
Yeah.
How do you go about that, as far as, getting reps for those guys?
Yeah, so we're lucky because we are splitting fields. We have a lot more depth than we have in the past, which allows us to get some more reps. And regardless of what those reps are, there's no substitute for experience. And I think our guys are evaluated on every single thing that they do every day. They have plenty of opportunities. I never worry about that early in camp. What I tell them is go to work every day, okay, and put it on film, and we'll evaluate you. So right now, with the first two implanted, right, with two veteran guys, those other guys are going to sit there and battle it out, and by the end of camp, we'll know who is in position to be that third guy.
I asked Haynes, what he did this summer, and he said he was interning under you. What did that look like?
Well, I think he is a football junkie, and I think he's a kid that graduated from Texas A&M and transferred here. Is taking graduate classes, which allows him the ability to be able to do some internships. And it's so fun working with these guys. And you start talking about a guy like Haynes, who's the son of a long-time, very successful high school football coach. But it's in his blood. He can't get enough of it. And it's hard to find those kids these days. And he is old school. He loves the game. He can articulate it. He can speak about the game at a high level, which makes it a lot of fun for me. So his internship consisted of studying football.
I know you got to coach against Florida State a couple of years ago, but is being on such a big stage and being the first game of the season and you get to coach against them again, does it mean anything special to you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say it's not exciting for me, right? That's my alma mater. I'm proud of where I went to school. I'm proud of where I graduated from. But I coach at Georgia Tech, okay? And that's the first challenge on our schedule this year. Happens to be on a big stage, which we like. I haven't necessarily thought a bunch about it yet. As we continue to get closer and start honing in and game planning for those guys and locking in on them, I think the juices will be flowing. And I think the most important thing is it's an exciting opportunity for our kids, right? You're playing against a team that had a lot of success last year. Their roster has changed a little bit. Our roster changed a little bit, not necessarily on our side of the ball. Okay, we've added a few pieces, but our focus right now is to be the best that we can be each and every day. And when our mindset changes to start to focus on them, I think it'll get ramped up around here.
Going back to those two freshmen, does it help them knowing the depth you have at each position that they can play with guys that are almost as good as the starters?
Yeah, I think it's exciting. That's part of the whole process when you're recruiting guys, right? I always tell quarterbacks, you have to be our best recruiter. When a kid commits here, okay, good players want to come play with good quarterbacks. So you look at our roster now compared to maybe a couple, 3 years ago, it's a different looking football team. We have good young players. I think the advantage that all of those young players have, regardless of whether it's the quarterback or any other position, they have veteran guys ahead of them that are continuing to show them what the expectation is, what the standard is. And when you create depth, you create competition. And I think, as Coach Key would say, we're going to play the best players. Doesn't matter if you're a sixth-year senior or if you're a first-year freshman. So I think the young quarterbacks see that there's talent that surrounds them, which means there's some excitement for the future.
I think one of the things that's lost with Haynes is, yes, he's an older guy, but last year was his first time being a starter for a full season. Yeah. And people get a little caught up with the interception stats and that sort of thing. How much do you, that when you go back and look at it, do you chalk it up as a guy maybe who hasn't had those, 800 game reps that a normal quarterback would have at his age maybe? And how much of that do you expect to go away as he has that experience now under his belt?
Well, I think there's a couple of things there. One, you're right, he hasn't necessarily been the starter for a full year. Okay, he does have a lot of experience, but it hasn't necessarily been consistently over a number of years, and I think that's important for us all to understand. Don't forget the fact that the guy came in and just had to learn a new offense 1 year ago and then became our starter and operated our offense at a high level. I tell these guys this every single day. We are going to be aggressive, okay? He is ultra competitive. Okay, now he needs to understand, okay, when to take those shots and when not to take those shots. I think a better understanding of our offense, of the nuances within our offense, and the ability to be able to say, hey, live for each down, right? Be the best that you can be and don't ever put us in a bad position, okay? He will be better this year than he was a year ago. But I don't want to take away his aggressive attitude. I don't want to take away his competitiveness. Like I tell them, when they run out of the tunnel, go out, have fun. Okay, cut it loose and put the mistakes on me. So that's how I want him to play. That's how they'll continue to play. But he is very conscious of that, and that's something that takes place right after the season. I'm not dwelling on that. That's over. It's done with. He understands what he needs to get better at, and he's gotten better at that. And through the course of 6 practices, you'll see when it's not there, he's throwing the ball away. He's making really good decisions.
Anything else?
Tight end position. You're a little more excited this year now with some of the guys you have over there that really give you a chance to get them in there and create some mismatches, that type of thing?
Yeah, I think, there's no doubt we had a couple last year that were twitchy guys, in Dylan and Luke, who did a lot of really good things for us. I think if you look at our tight end room now, there's a lot of depth there, right? And I think if you look at it, they're more specific in terms of what they're capable of doing. But when you have a lot of depth there in our offense, where we're going to change personnel a bunch, whether we're going to be in 11 personnel, 12, 13, possibly 14, okay, we're going to make everybody prepare for us in a lot of different ways. The luxury of having depth at that position allows us to do that.
Anything else? Kelly, if you want to wrap
Sure. You had experience, I'm sure, with the helmet comms playing in the NFL and then coaching in the NFL. How do you kind of talk to your quarterbacks about how to make that adjustment of having Buster in there or whatever, and understanding the ways to analyze that data and make the best use of it?
Yeah, and I think because of my experience with it as a player and then as a coach in the NFL, it is a process that you have to go through. That's why we utilize it every day. So these guys are getting comfortable with that. I think, as I shared with Buster, each and every guy is a little bit different. Okay, there's some guys that want more information than other guys. There's some guys that strictly want the play, and I don't want to hear anything else. So it's the challenge of Buster understanding the guy, okay, and then the guy's understanding, okay, one, can I stay calm, listen to the call while everybody's talking? Our mechanism hasn't necessarily changed, right? We still have to signal because we're not in the huddle like the NFL. Now, I think the landscape of college football, you will see some changes. Because of the communication on both sides of the football, I think when you start talking about, hey, when we're shifting and motioning, they're going to have to check. The ability for defensive coordinators now to be able to help their linebackers check, okay, will be a cat and mouse game. And I think it'll be interesting to see college football as we move forward. Are we going to now revert back to some old school football where there's going to be some teams getting in the huddle, okay, and calling plays because it's going to be easier. If you feel like a team has got a beat on your signals, the one way to be able to combat that is to get in the huddle. So I think we're conscious of that. We're aware of that. That's what a lot of teams do, right? They're trying to get your signals. Well, they can't get your signals if we're calling the play through the headset. So it's a process. The guys are comfortable now after 6 days. Obviously, we use it a little bit in spring. I think the next step with that is the iPads on the sidelines. You talk about teams being able to make adjustments now, okay? Not only can you talk about it and try to draw it up for the players, you're going to show it to them in real life. I think it's also going to help defensive coordinators, right? Hey, this is what they did out of this formation. Okay, we can expect this. We have to be one step ahead of defensive coordinators in terms of combating what we anticipate they're going to do, right? So it's going to be a cat and mouse game, right? I think it's good for college football. I think it's unique in terms of the direction we're going. It's going to allow probably a lot more exotic things in college football. You know, everything right now is, hey, speed and tempo and everybody go, right? Well, there'll still be that, but I think you're going to see a lot more things with the ability to be able to communicate to the quarterback.
Awesome. Coach, thank you.
All right. Good seeing you guys. All right.
Thanks, Coach.
Yep.